We're going to wrap up the magic today talking about the Summoner's 4th, 5th, and 6th level spells. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Joining me in the background there, you might see or hear from her, is my most adorable co-host, Nora, Journeyman Storyteller Initiate to the 8th Circle of Lore now. I'm happy to have her joining me this evening as we start to wrap things up for the spell guide portion with our look at the Summoner. But before we get into everything we have on hand for you today, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster, if I could speak, then go on down there, hit the like button, and share the video far and wide. Now, let's go ahead and start getting into the spells here. Actually, before we do that, there was a mistake that I need to address that was pointed out. Very much thank you for that. And it was the kind of spellcaster that the Summoner is. You are not a prepared spellcaster, you are a spontaneous spellcaster, meaning your spell slots are all available and ready to go, but you can just cast whatever spells you know at will in whatever order. And by at will, I mean you can decide in the moment what it is you're casting, what you need to throw out there. Not that it's just an immediate free action kind of thing. So yeah, bear that in mind. That was something I had to remind myself, oh yeah, I need to fix that. And repeated that phrase to myself about 5 times and then completely forgot the day I ended up recording anyways. So sorry about that, folks. My mistake. Mea culpa. Mea maxima culpa. Yeah, so with that said and out of the way, let's actually start talking about 4th level spells. And to start us off, we have a great one, and it's Overland Flight. Works like the fly spell, except that you fly at a speed of 40 feet, or 30 feet in medium armor or at a medium load, with a bonus on fly skill checks equal to 1/2 your caster level. Following up right after that, we have Greater Evolution Surge. Grant your Eidolon 2 evolutions, whose total it goes up to a maximum of 6 evolution points, to acquire an evolution or evolutions they don't already have and meet the requirements for. Like evolution surges can be used to upgrade an evolution that's in place, but that's about the extent of it there. But even still, this is huge, because before I described an evolution being worth a feat in reference to the extra evolutions feat that you can select, and yeah, this is a feat and a half and then some, easily, for the cost of a daily spell slot that you can use, at whatever point you dictate that you need to use it. Absolutely an incredible bargain. Then, after that, we come up to Wall of Stone, which lets you create a stone wall up to 1 5-foot square level within a range of 100 feet plus 10 feet per level. The wall is 1 inch thick for every 4 caster levels, and you can make walls, of course, but also you can add in bridges or crude defenses to the mix there. Absolutely great to have. Although what I mean by crude defenses is you're not going to create the intricate stonework necessary to have matriculations and things like that, but crenellations, little bits of cover popping up along the edge of the wall to give yourself added protection, absolutely you could do something like that. But again, great battlefield control, great utility out of this spell, absolutely worth it. The next one is kind of dependent on the DM in terms of how good it is. Even still, I think most reasonable DMs not actively trying to screw over the party will make a decent use out of this spell, making it just great for the players, because instead of having to comb through NPCs to gather information, traveling and investigating sites, you can instead kind of just end up asking the DM directly. It's still via NPC, but by the mechanics of this spell, well, anyways, you concentrate to send your mind to another plane and ask questions of the powers there. They do resent the contact in most instances and respond in a language you understand in one-word answers. Every time you ask a question and interact with the deity, you run the risk of intelligence or charisma penalties if you fail your percentile roll, because depending on the ranking of the individual spirit you speak with within their plane's hierarchy and structure, you run a greater and greater chance of having outright lies or instances where the creature in question just doesn't know the correct answer. So the higher up the chain you go, the more reliable the information becomes, but the greater the risk of penalties there. So keep that in mind. Even when this spell is working great, you do run some risks, and given that you work almost entirely off of your charisma, you're really not going to enjoy the penalty. But for the last 4th level spell, we have another classic that you would be damn near remiss to not have on your known spells. It's Baleful Polymorph. Target one creature within 25 feet plus 5 feet every 2 caster levels, who must make a fortitude save or be turned into a small or smaller 1-hit die creature, gaining a +4 bonus to the save if the new form would be fatal, such as you turn them into a fish on dry land, where their form is going to mean they suffocate. They gain a +4 bonus in that case. However, on a failed will save, the creature loses their extraordinary, supernatural, and spell-like abilities. They also gain the intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores of their new form. Just be aware that shape changer subtypes can revert to their natural form as a standard action. So you can see how this is incredibly useful. Now, an ideal target would be a caster in many instances. However, they make willed saves, and most casters are going to have good will saves, so that can make it a bit hit or miss. But if it hits and they fail their save, oh man, bad news for them, but absolutely a great spell for you to have. But then, going on from there, we move on to our 5th level spells, and to start us off, we have a buff that is going to be absolutely incredible for your Eidolon, you, or any allies that might enjoy it. It's Greater Heroism. You touch a target creature, and for 1 minute a level, the creature will gain a +4 morale bonus on attack rolls, saves, skill checks, and gain immunity to fear effects and temporary hit points equal to your caster level, maxing out at 20 extra hit points. That immunity to fear effects is great. A +4 morale bonus means that this bonus is going to stack with several other sources to really boost saves, and it's on your attack rolls, saves, and skill checks. So, it doesn't even have to be limited to just your Eidolon or anybody looking to get in the midst of melee. Throw this on your Bard and they get a +4 bonus on their skill checks and immunity to fear. They're going to do amazing things with their performance rolls, or any bluffing or diplomacy that they might have to do for you. Absolutely an incredible buff for anybody in your party. Then we have Greater Teleport. This is worth holding out over a teleport for, but depending on the campaign or situation, or if there are even any other spellcasters in your party, teleport may be worth getting. However, with Greater Teleport, you teleport yourself and touched objects, or 1 for every 3 caster levels in creatures, to a designated location within 100 miles a level. Now, depending on your level of familiarity, you run a greater or lesser risk of a miscast. There's also a chance you may end up in a similar area, but if you're trying to teleport to a place that you're intimately familiar with, the town square of your hometown, or your own home, something that you're in frequently, or at least around frequently, so that you know and picture the area. Because if you mess up and you miscast and you accidentally place yourself in a location to where you are going to have problems, you're going to have incredible problems. So definitely, Greater Teleport is great. Absolutely a great spell. Great utility, just be careful. Now, going on from there, we have Ethereal Jaunt. Target self or your Eidolon, given that you can cast certain buffs on your Eidolon that are normally only targetable to yourself, and you can become ethereal for 1 round a level. You are on the ethereal plane in this instance, which meshes over the material plane, and you can move through solid objects on the material plane or up and down, albeit at half speed. Moving around in every direction is absolutely great in its utility and its usefulness. Moving through solid objects will help gain you entry into many different areas. Just be aware that you can only see and hear things on the material plane out to 60 feet while you are ethereal. So absolutely something to keep in mind there. It can limit things, so having a decent idea of where you want to go, or at least some sort of familiarity with the layout of the place you're in, will be almost necessitated, but still, great, incredible utility here. A great way of escaping things too. Depending on if you've gotten grappled or swallowed, this will be great to have. The next buff is True Seeing. For 1 minute a level, the target can see through normal and magical darkness, doors hidden by magic, sees through blur, displacement, invisibility, illusions, and can see the true forms of polymorph creatures and transmuted things out to 120 feet. So, any illusory effects on the area? Nope, you can see through it, you can perceive the reality of things, you can see through so many things that are buffs for creatures like the blur or displacement effects. Those will be absolutely great to have negated. Being able to see through magical darkness is great too, and any investigation setting where you're trying to find hidden doors, this spell undoes a lot of the challenge, so absolutely great to have on your roster. Then, for 6th level spells, we open up with Maze. Target one creature within 25 feet plus 5 feet every 2 caster levels, and banish them to an extra-dimensional labyrinth, with no save, only spell resistance allowed. So no save is going to be huge. This is not everything that poses a significant threat to you is going to have spell resistance. Now, each round on its turn, the target can attempt a DC 20 intelligence check to escape as a full round action, or if they keep failing, they will be released after 10 minutes have passed. So this can make for an incredible debuff, taking a target, a significantly dangerous target ideally, entirely out of the fight for at least a handful of rounds, because the kind of creatures you target with this to get out of your way aren't always going to have necessarily the best intelligence check. So you hit a wizard with this, well, the wizard's spell casting is going to be blocked by most of these, by this spell. They're going to block most of the, teleporting, those kind of traveling spells. But even still, they're going to have a significantly higher intelligence in most cases for arcane spellcasters. But yeah, all the way around, Maze is going to be very useful. Just be aware, don't target minotaurs by this. They are going to be immune to its effects. So yeah, bear that in mind. Then we have Discern Location. This takes you 10 minutes to cast, so it's not going to be a mid-fight spell, but has unlimited range for one target, which can be a creature you have seen or have a belonging of, or an object you have touched if you are looking for a particular object. So you just have to have seen the creature and you can locate them. Touch an object and then locate where it's at, and this bypasses a lot of the defensive spells that are put up to counteract scrying effects. Discern Location is absolutely powerful, great utility, very, very useful to have outside of a battlefield setting. Now, some spells for you to avoid overall. Anything like Mass Bull's Strength, Eagle's Splendor, any of those particular buffing spells. One, Eagle's Splendor and Bull's Strength are limited to one target, and by the time you get Masked Bull's Strength or any of these spells, their usefulness ends the instant that somebody has, a Belt of Giant Strength or Gauntlets of Strength or a Headband of Intellect. Any of these things are going to instantly negate the effectiveness of these spells, and by the time you get up to their mass versions, most of your party are going to have items buffing the stats they already need to be buffed. So worth it overall to skip it in favor of most of the other spells. Not all of them are going to be in great quality, like Summon Monster, for example, because you have it as just a class ability, the ability to use Summon Monster, you don't really need to pick up the Summon Monster spells on your known spell list to occupy spell slots. So it's still Summon Monster, it's still useful, it's just made a lot less useful by the presence of your class ability. So spells like that have duplicate effects to things you can already do on your own, or spells that are quickly negated by pretty commonplace equipment by most adventure standards, are worth it to avoid. Also, avoid things like devolution that are incredibly situational, because this is a debuff specifically for Eidolons. If you're fighting summoners, yeah, this can be incredibly useful in those instances. However, it's probably better to have a more general debuff or buff for your own Eidolon, because most of your general debuffs are going to work on summoners, are going to work on Eidolons, and buffs you're just going to get use out of no matter what the situation is as well. Something that Greater Heroism on your Eidolon is always going to make for a killer effect. So devolution, not really worth it, because it's a debuff that's useful in one specific instance that's not always going to come up all that frequently. So those are the kinds of spells to avoid overall. Everything else we've covered today and last episode, absolutely great to have, but they are not the only good spells to have. So leave your thoughts down below. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Hit those like or dislike buttons either way. And if you did enjoy everything and you haven't done so already, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. With all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.